Hello everyone, welcome to part 1 of my Clone Wars analysis series. In today's video we'll be examining Season 1, Episode 1, Ambush. The goal of this series is to unpack the Clone Wars animated show and look closely at its themes, characters, and politics. As always, there will be spoilers as we are covering the entire episode and series. That said, let's jump into it. Ambush surrounds Yoda as he goes to Toydaria to negotiate with the King to see if they will side with the Republic during the Clone Wars. However, he is ambushed by the Separatists, which are led by Ventress. Through wisdom and unorthodox methods of power, Yoda and his 3 surviving clone troopers demonstrate that they are the ones doing the ambushing by prevailing against all odds against the droids that pursue them. The quote for the episode is, "Great leaders inspire greatness in others," and connects to the episode's primary theme of weak versus strong leadership. Other core aspects of Ambush is the political concept of the security dilemma, the nature of the Force, and the episode maintains and develops Yoda's characterization in a way that echoes it from The Empire Strikes Back. We see the Separatists playing dirty by attacking Yoda, who is an ambassador in this situation, and by preventing diplomatic negotiations. As the Sith are manipulative, and you see that centralized in Palpatine throughout the films and show, but it is also shared by Count Dooku, who is attempting to manipulate the King of Toydaria through Ventress, his apprentice. It is worth noting that Dooku is not present in this situation and is conversing through a hologram, which this later connects to the theme of leadership. One might argue that Yoda and Ventress are foils of one another in this episode, and they kind of are, but Dooku is the ultimate foil for Yoda. As this episode unveils and Yoda's inspiring leadership is present, the fact that Dooku is hiding behind a hologram shows his lack of leadership and the cowardly, manipulative nature of the Sith. When talking to the King, Dooku asserts his own influence and downsells the power of Yoda, and this is interesting when you put into perspective that Yoda was his master while he was once a Jedi. This strongly correlates to Dooku's statement of being more powerful than any Jedi in Attack of the Clones. Count Dooku and the King of Toydaria share a discussion over the power values of the droid army and the Jedi's army. Ultimately, it's a discussion of numbers and percentages, and this is a perspective of understanding war. The question proposed by this episode is whether strength is a quantitative trait measurable by numbers or a qualitative trait and measured by something else. We'll see 2 sides to the coin from Ventress and Yoda. While leadership is a theme of the episode, the matter of debate is over security. The Clone Wars is obviously war, and this episode emphasizes the security dilemma and power balance between planets. These concepts come from the realist perspective of our real-world international relations, and in Star Wars, the intergalactic politics are similar. Planets like Toydaria may not want to join the Republic or the Separatists, as they either want to remain neutral or don't agree with the identities and values of either side, but they will ultimately be willing to side with one to increase their own power and planetary interests to survive during the war. After being ambushed and crashing onto the moon, Yoda notes the beauty of the universe and his surroundings. Yoda is showing a care, respect, and understanding for the greater things at play, and shows that he's thinking beyond simply war and power, which are what Ventress and Dooku are emphasizing throughout the whole episode. In Ambush, Yoda acts very similarly to how he does in Empire Strikes Back. He's very mysterious and indirect, but wise and with good intentions. A few particular quotes stick out from the middle of the episode in characterizing Yoda and his views on the war. He says that a straight path is not the goal, which notes a detachment from the objective view on war, and again, an understanding for more complex routes and ideas. The episode is about Yoda and his 3 men going up against a whole battalion of droids, and even when there is an offset power balance, Yoda ascertains that intelligence and wisdom is the power that the Jedi and clones possess that the droids cannot, and that it outweighs the numbers of the Separatists. "Larger in mind" is his other quote, and finally he says, "Size does not matter," which again correlates to his statements in Empire Strikes Back. A really striking quote is when Yoda says, "We will ambush them," to his clones about the droid army, even though they are the ones that were originally ambushed and put into a position of assumed weakness. It shows a confidence in Yoda's strength and purpose. It's a really interesting juxtaposition, and I'd say the title Ambush stems from Yoda's ambush of the droids and not the other way around. In his first encounter with them, Yoda toys with the droids by hiding and jumps around on them to get them to shoot themselves. He defeats them without drawing his lightsaber or using the Force at all, which is significant as he demonstrates that he doesn't even need those tools to defeat a few droids, which devalues their numbers and strength, which were central to Dooku's statements about security to the King. While impatient with her droids, not getting the results when it comes to Yoda, Ventress says, "The Jedi won't elude me," and the statement of "me" is important to note because she isn't doing anything herself, and he's using the army and its supposed strength to do all of the work for her. It's juxtaposed by Yoda, who is out in the field doing the fighting and the leading himself. This ties back to the grounding quote before the episode on great leadership. Ventress isn't actually leading, and a step further in analysis would be saying that Dooku isn't really leading either because he isn't even on the planet. Yoda's leadership not only helps his cause and mission, but his men, and he's able to go beyond the war to a personal level of companionship with each clone trooper. Conversely, when her troopers fail, Ventress gets irritated and impatient, and her leadership style becomes more discouraging and aggressive. The clones with Yoda note that they all share a same face, which shows a perspective of sameness and lacking identity in the early stages of the war. Yoda tells the clones that they are individuals within the Force despite being clones, and calls them by their names, and as the overall show progresses, the Jedi and clones are often on a name-to-name basis with each other. Yoda enlightens the clones and the audience that the Force connects all life forms, even those created in a lab, and it is implied that the Force can give the clones an advantage in battle over the mechanical, soulless droids who lack it. With intelligence, patience, wisdom, and other traits, success can be attained even at harsh odds through the Force, which is the core power of a Jedi. Another parallel between this episode and the original trilogy is when Yoda tells the clones, "Your eyes deceive you," which is a mirror from Obi-Wan's quote in A New Hope and emphasizes the Jedi's understanding of the world beyond the five senses. It highlights a deeper perception and connection to the individuals and things around oneself. There is another juxtaposition between Ventress and Yoda and their soldiers. When the droids had Yoda in a position they could have killed him in, they didn't know what they needed to do, and Ventress had to tell them to fire. Conversely, Yoda trusts and believes his clones will know what to do when appropriate, and tells them that he has this trust in them. When Yoda is cornered by droids and one rocket is left, an opportunity presents itself, and the clones don't need to be told to fire, thus saving Yoda and winning the battle on their own accord. This comparison between being told to fire and the ability to choose when to fire is a very strong and interesting point the episode is making without really saying it. From a leadership perspective, Ventress is a weak leader and assumes all control, and thus she assumes all of the blame. Conversely, Yoda is a great leader and shares that greatness with his soldiers, which allows them to make decisions when they can. After Yoda succeeds, Dooku wants the King of Toydaria killed, and Ventress is going to do it. But Yoda stops her with the Force, and because she is unfocused, he is able to take her weapons and then gives them back to her without a second doubt. Ventress is genuinely out of focus, and Yoda is in the superior frame. His confidence and presence forces her to retreat through cowardly tactics of distraction, very similar to Dooku and Grievous's actions in the main films. Yoda affirms that cowards follow the dark side, which goes back to the discussion of the straight path versus the complex path. The straight path is to the dark side, for it is easy and attractive, but the complex path is that of a Jedi who understands all of the complexities and is at peace with that. A final dialogue exchange between Yoda and Dooku highlights their old connection as Jedi Master and Apprentice. Yoda addresses Dooku as his fallen apprentice, which similarly mirrors the future for Anakin's fall to the dark side down the line. The episode ends with Toydaria siding with the Republic through dialogue and symbolically by the King boarding a Republic ship. It can be interpreted that the King no longer has the perception of quantitative strength at the end of the episode, and that by joining Yoda he embraces or accepts a more encompassing view of what it means to be strong during wartime. However, the influence over the security dilemma is still strong throughout the galaxy, and the episode suggests that other neutral systems are likely to go either way during the war. This is the first episode of the show, and Yoda's speech to the clones about individuality sets the precedent for what is to come in all future episodes, as we will see individuality shine in all of the clones, notably Rex, Fives, Echo, Heavy, Jesse, Waxer, Boyle, and more.